Excuse me. So now it is recording, and it is Wednesday, August the 5th, 2020. Welcome to week 5 of Introduction to Corrections for the final lecture of the quarter. Of course, so the quarter, doesn't end just because it's the final lecture. So let me get right with sharing my screen. Okay. I said from the very beginning of this course, in this instructor information, to pay close attention to rubrics. And every week I go over rubrics. Every week. And then APA. Now, I want to do something here. A couple students have said that they didn't think that the paper should be APA. There is additional course information that I shared at the beginning of this course that all written assignments should be in APA format. That means, and I broke it down, citations in the body and references at the end. I'm not dogmatic on the Roman 12. I will take a point if you don't have a cover sheet. But citations and references and the appropriate APA citations need to take place. And we already explained why in-text citations, and APA uses the style author date, not just author, not just the article, but date. And there are two types of in-text citation. There's parenthetical and narrative. So in the narrative citation, what you have to do is you have to include the author's name in the sentence and the year of the publication in parentheses. What has happened is some students will say, for example, in this paper, Chung found that undergraduate writers, and they don't put the year, 216. And it also tells you too that in-text citations and references are connected. And the functions that they serve are, first, they alert the reader that the information from source material was used in a sentence from where the in-text citation appears. It lets the reader know who influenced the writer's position. In other words, or supports it, as I usually say. Second, it serves as a finding tool so that the reader can find the full reference in the reference list. So they need to match. So here's, for example, where Chung 216, here's the reference of Chung 216. This is the appropriate reference. And many of you get these, but you gotta make sure you have that and the year. It is not proper if it does not have that. And I had a discussion recently with a student who said that they just put the information in, but I said you must follow APA. APA in the body of your papers that you have completed. Now, the first week of class, I think that I gave you a break on that, but the ones after that, and then I also said that if you have trouble, this is where you get help. APA tutoring is the most common way. You can go to the APA style blog And it is very, 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 very important. I talked about this during week 1. And yet there are students who um, keep leaving out the proper way to write in-text citations. It's not hard, it's very easy. Okay, so it could be at the beginning or it could be at the end, but I gotta have the author as the text, and then the year. In the citation reference, I have more details about it. You'll see as how it's listed out. That's as simple as that. That's it. That's it. Now that's the way 6 is. When we wait till we get to 7, I'm not going to even talk about that. But it's going to be more difficult. But it's very, 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 very important. Also, if you're using a source, you'll notice too that it adds maybe a page or something, but you still use the name, the author, and the year. You're still going to see it every time. And quotations, um, you have to make sure that you use citations sparingly so that you don't have it take up most of your paper. Okay, but see, at the end, it tells what it is, and it helps you to do that. So I just thought I'd want to start out by doing that, because when I talk about in your assignments, and when we get to them, I'm going to talk about it again. Again, APA so important so that you can get out of emerging. You cannot and will not get out of it unless, now, there are a few people says, oh, I'm being very picky. I'm not being picky. It's either right or it's wrong. It's just like a true or false exam. It's either true or false as the correct answer. And that's the way we have to do it. It's very important, very important. This is for your benefit to help you. And it's the difference in an A and a C. So here we are with our final lecture. As you already know, um, during this whole course, I have had the lectures emailed to you, but then you could also click on the hyperlink under the live lecture sections. All right. Now, before we get to week 5 announcement, I'll go to the course calendar. Okay, here we are here. This is it. So your initial post was due yesterday. Your reading on Monday. Your reply post this Saturday. This is the last Saturday you're going to do a reply post. And then your assignments. Release planning is due. And then your quiz. Again, I remind you, I have people have taken quiz on Monday, when you have 3 times during the course of the week to take a quiz, and I have ignored that last one. If it's gone past the date, I have done that. I have to do that because you have 3 times to do that. It's the only class that you have that. And so then next week, since we don't have a lecture, this is a short week. So from your assignments being due for week 5, your assignments for week 6 are due 2 days later. Okay? And it's going to be basically an initial post and a reply post. and then your quiz. So it's really not anything to study for week 6, except study the PowerPoints and the things in the module that I've been encouraging you to study each and every week. Very, 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 very important. So now I want to go back to the course home. So our announcement for this week tells about the topics, the challenges within the field of correction. You had chapter 7, not the whole chapter, of 189 to 193. So you just had 4 pages. And then I gave you the PowerPoints for the full chapter, even though you've had it before. Then chapters 13, 15, and 16. And complete the challenges, which we'll go over. Challenges and correction, TPC review, and then of course your vocabulary review, all important, as I stress every week, because it has to do with your quizzes. Your initial post, sensible revocation. Initial post was due yesterday. Your reply post is due Saturday, 11:59 CST PM. And then finally, your written assignment, release planning, and the quiz. And again, you have 3 times to take that quiz between now and Friday. I mean, now and Sunday, Sunday night. 3 times, people, 3 times. Monday is not going to count. I'm not counting Mondays. And what I did do was people who took it Monday for the first time, and I don't know why students would wait to do that, since you have 3 times during the week. You should follow along, and you know that that's the way it's been since week 1. And then you know what my motto is. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the module. Now, I want to say this about assignments. Here's what I'm going to do for you. Skipping over the discussion for a minute, coming to the written assignment. I'm going to give you an opportunity to go back and redo 4 before Friday. Before Friday, to make sure that you put yourself in the opportunity to get a good grade in emerging. There are several of you who won't have to do that because you got it. You put citations in the body and references at the end. And I said it before that one student has shared to me, and other students have, that they say, well, other professors are different. They're not like you. I says, that's why I'm a highly rated professor in the school. And that's why my students, when they go out and apply for positions and they present their writing samples and things that they've done, then they get the jobs or stand a good chance, because I teach you the way that I know that employers are looking for. This is the place where you make mistakes. I've had students that get very upset because they said, well, don't I get half credit for being half right? I says, do you want to have that as a mindset to start as you now are preparing to go as a professional? I don't think so. I don't think so. Because my job is not done if I don't keep steering you in the right direction. So it's like a coach on a team. And I said this from the beginning. You guys are the players, I'm the coach. And if I see there are plays that aren't working right and not being, and you're not following the system, it's not my system. It's the system that employers have told us that they want. And I shared with you the academic integrity aspects of the need for appropriate citations in text and references at the end. I did that. You can go back and look at the videos and you'll see that. So what I'm going to do is tell you now, you can do week 4. I'm not going to let you do week 3. I already graded them. So week 4, I haven't even looked at them yet, but I'm giving you a chance to do week 4, and you know who you are and what you did. You can go back and look at it. I don't even want you to mention it today on this tape, because I want this to be helpful to everybody, even those who are in here in the group that missed that point. But I want to make sure that every one of my students have it clear and broken down so that it's done appropriately. I've been successful in life because I have sought for professionalism and have always shot for the highest level. That's what I want you to do. Some professors, they really don't really look at it that way, but that's not the way I do. Now, so we'll come back to that in a minute. So anyway, let's go back to your discussion assignment. Sensible revocation, and you are recognizing as a individual dealing with probationers and parolees that they violate for various reasons. You learn that from some of the things I've talked about in the past, and you're going to learn it again tonight as we talk about specifically parole during the lecture. And it can be violated, as it says, for a technical violation, or created or commit a new offense. Technical violation generally is just simply not following the requirements. Let's say you get your papers when you are on parole, and it says John Doe must not hang with individuals who are felons, not use alcohol, not use drugs, attempt to get a job or go to school, or whatever it is for the benefit of helping you. If you're under house arrest, that you abide by the processes. Those are what we call technical violations, and can sometimes result in absolute complete revocation, which is the last resort, because you'll have your parole officer to file what we call a violation of parole petition, or a VOP. That's what it stands for in parole. In probation, it stands for violation of probation, where you are brought because you got caught not following the technical parts of it. And the idea of the probation officer or parole officer is to try to help you, if possible, to uh, follow the technical violations. Some people miss following technical violations. In other words, they don't dot every I and cross every T. Well, as a parole officer, probation officer, you'll discover that you have to also understand some of the individuals you're dealing with are not at the most sophisticated in terms of following instructions. If they were, many would not end up in the system in itself. So you have to recognize you as a professional here, and the person with that bachelor's degree, because remember, you can't be a parole officer or a probation officer without a bachelor's degree. Then you have to help that individual and come back, because you're part of your job is teacher. Okay, so violation for technical. And then the other thing is they catch new cases. We call them catch a case. And what that means is they violate the law. Maybe they get busted with drugs on them. They commit an offense where, if they, for example, are persons who commit robberies, they'll go out, commit some more robberies and get caught with that. Well, that's a violation, boom, that will inevitably result in revocation. So, and it says, regardless of the reasons that the parolee violates, um, revocation is pretty high. And the question is, so then the question is, what is sensible revocation? Sensible revocation, you're going to discover, is revocation that, based upon all the surrounding circumstances, where the individual may have been given a chance with a technical violation that's a minor offense, and or caught a case, then they got to pay a penalty for it, and unfortunately will find themselves in the situation where they end up back where they came from, if they're parole, or either if they're probation, sent to prison when they had a chance to not go at all. So you're going to look at these two scenarios, and then you're going to make a call. And in your initial post, you're going to explain what is a technical violation versus new offenses. I've kind of helped you there with that. Include examples of both technical and new offense violations. So I've just helped you a few minutes ago by talking about that. Then you're going to detail the reasons the parolee selected should or should not have their sentence revoked. Include examples from the scenario to support your reasons. Describe your thoughts as to what you think sensible revocation means. Again, I've kind of given you some tips. Your reading and your PowerPoints and the additional materials will help you a lot. So everybody kind of got it now? You got what's up with sensible revocation and what we're talking about? You can type in the chat box. I'll see it. Okay, awesome. And it's very important. All right. So that's that assignment. And then of course you already know that it has to be on time. You also know it has to be detailed, not a short indicator. And then you know you can have citations and references, which I do appreciate. And I let you know that if you read the comments I put in there, you'll see what I really like, and then you'll see why your grade is most of the time. You already know why your grade is lower on discussions, because it is usually late. Sometimes students don't get the part about the content. And then in your response, then you're going to choose a peer who selected the other scenario. So you're going to state which scenario you're using, whether you're using Pat or Chris. All right, and you're going to do that as well. All right. So now let's talk about the written assignment. Now, in the written assignment, you are given a scenario. And in this scenario, um, you've been promoted within the agency, and the process and policies relating to release planning. And you will learn that release planning involves preparing the individual from leaving prison and going out into the community. And you're going to have to be able to deal with it. Says, after several conversations with national experts, you are being asked to serve as a consultant. Select a group from around U.S. who've been tasked with assessing several state release. So you want to see what release processes are taking place. The first state you have been asked to assess is a determinate sentencing state. Everybody in this room should know what determinate sentencing is, because we dealt with that as an assignment week number 3. And you have guidelines that determine it. So you should already know, you know. So, excuse me, offenders are released after serving 2/3 of their sentence. And so if they sentence 18 months, they serve 12 months, then they spend the last 6 months on parole. And then the state has a revocation rate that's high. We kind of talked about some of those reasons just a few minutes ago. In other words, more than half are returned for technical violations as opposed to catching a case. And you understand the reasons for that. The state has explored, excuse me a minute, my throat is, excuse me, while I'll take this swig of water. Okay, that'll open it up there. So the state has explored the transition from prison to the community, and you know what TPC stands for. It means transition from prison to community. But the implementation efforts have been stalled by staff morale, staff opposed to that, and lack of understanding as to how it actually should operate. So for this assignment, you're going to do this. Identify 2 recommendations from the state, including examples for each recommendation. Okay, that is for release planning or transition from prison to the community. And then think, and then answer why you think these recommendations would be more impactful. Explain how each is aligned with research in dealing with R&R, TPC, and any other principles. But these are the main 2 right here. And then here we go. Provide supporting evidence from credible sources. The way that you satisfy that requirement is by what I said at the beginning of class, and that is by satisfying the APA requirement. Very, 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 very important. And I apologize to those who get it right away, but I'm the one who do the grading of papers, and I'm kind of sometimes discouraged, not discouraged, but I'm like, as a parent, I continue to look at you guys, I almost as my children that I'm raising up in this field to help you to become professionals so that you are very good. As I said, 3 tiers: educated, professional, and ethical. So the credible sources requirement is satisfied by doing the whole thing, appropriate APA citations, and then the appropriate references at the end. That's a big part of your grade, and because of the way the rubric is set up. So what is that? What are you looking at here? I read the content. Then I also, want you to have some detailed information in there to satisfy the requirements. But I also want you to make sure that you back it up with providing the credible sources, and then dealing with your professional language using grammar. And most of you do pretty good on your points. And I check your box. By the way, if the box is checked and I don't say anything under it, that means that you either satisfied the requirements or either it's the same problem that you start out with. I put the comment in there at the beginning that you will see as to why. If yours is perfect, I put check, 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 check. And then at the end, you get all 60 of your points. Okay. So now let's go and look at what the rubric looks like. The rubric matches what I just talked about. Here it is. Again, which column is the most important one? Yes. Yes. I mean, I feel like sometimes I wish I could just take these off, but they don't want me to do that. I talked about it. I say, okay, All right. I says, but I don't even discuss these with my class. I just show you how many points you can lose. So your recommendations, as was asked in the module, you'll get between 17 and 30 points. If you don't have explanation, recommendations, impactful with thorough examples of each recommendation, and you don't have, and it doesn't say it exactly in here, in this section, however, though, it's going to be combined together when you do your paper of credible sources to support your information. The only way you can provide an exemplary explanation of two identified recommendations is to show where you got it from. That's the way. And as to what would be the point, and you'll get that from your research. So you get your 30 points. Then we talk about alignment. Then it ties in and shows together. So let's say, for example, if I gave you 30 points for not even having credible sources for the third one, then you don't have them, then you're going to end up with 14 as the highest. So you're going to end up losing 9 points um, away, or 11 points. I'm sorry, 11 points. The key is exemplary means exemplary and mastery. And following APA is a demonstration of that. So then alignment is thorough alignment of the recommendations made to RNR, TPC, and other identified principles of corrections with comprehensive. We'll talk about that in a minute. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm only going over the assignment. We're going to do that in the lecture. So stay tuned for that. And does anybody in class know what it is? Anybody want to type in the chat box what it is before we get to the lecture? Anybody know? Because if you read your materials before, which you should have by now, or going through the PowerPoints, it's there. It's right there. Okay, there we go. Risk, need, and responsibility. Thank you. Thank you, Trinity. Yes, so that's what it stands for. Okay, but yeah, I know you probably read it, but your brain, I know, trust me, I'm not the only professor that you have. So I take that into consideration. I'm not accusing you of not having read it or any of those things. I'm just saying, okay, one of your classmates probably has it, and let's get it. But we're going to talk about it in the lecture. Notice the way that I do my lectures is I always spend the early part of it talking about the assignments. A lot of professors don't do that. They do lectures and then they just skirt over the assignment itself. I have found from taking a survey from previous classes that students says, hey, well, I appreciate it because you helped me a whole lot to get prepared for my assignment. And so anyway, it makes it easier. And then so down here, this is just perfunctory stuff, your spelling and so forth and so on. And again, we already know without saying in here that there is one source that we don't use for purposes of our papers as a reference or a citation. And what is that? Yes, Wiki. And the full name is Wikipedia. So yes, absolutely not. A red flag will come up. So, all right. So now I'm giving you guys a chance because I want to go back now. So that's the assignment for this week. Everybody got it? Okay. Now, before I go on, I want to go back to last week. I mean, to week 3. Because of what I graded. And I'm not gonna use any of your papers because I don't want to do that. even if you did a good one. I don't want to do that. I want to go back to the rubric again. A lot of you ended up not getting mastery because it tells you in here from the beginning. It says incomplete or confusing, missing details, the specific elements of each type of credible sources. If you don't have the citations in the body and the references at the end, you cannot satisfy that requirement. So that buzz takes you out of here. That means then you don't have each type of credible source because you don't have it. You either have it or you don't have it. And so therefore, I'm giving you a chance. Those of you who know who you are, look at your grade. And the common grade for that, I believe, is 60. Not 60. What was the total? Total was 60. Was 30 to 39 for people who did not have the appropriate credible sources. Okay. So you don't have to say anything, but again, and I don't give students an opportunity to rewrite, but this gives you a chance to for the last for week 4. I mean for week 4, week 5 to do it, because when you get to week 6, you don't have that kind of issue anymore. Okay. So anyway, that's and then by Friday, 11:59 p.m. and I, can change the grade by grading another one, and I won't mark it late, by the way. But after Friday, so if it's submitted Saturday, which is the 8th, then you're going to be stuck with that. So, and you don't have to say, I'm not going to ask you, is that fair or not? Because I'm not going to say that to you, because I don't want you to put yourself out here on this tape here. Just remain silent on this, as we say in Miranda, and just take it in and say, thank you, professor. You don't have to say thank you, professor, in the chat box. I already know. Okay, because I don't want to see you guys go down in flames. Now, one student, when I already told them that they could do that, they said, that's extra work, though. I don't want to have to do extra work. Why don't you fix it up the first time? I said, I did. So anyway, the point of the matter is that's just there. All right. So by Friday, which is the 8th, I'm 7th rather, the 8th is too late. If I see next to that assignment 8, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Okay. You'll be stuck with the grade that you had that's already in the grade book. Now, and then of course, going back here, and I'm spending a lot of time going over this way because you guys kind of get the principles. It's just that you got to make sure you follow it. And then I already talked about the quiz, and then the key phrase. Now, I do want to show you in week 6, again, your discussion assignments. You already know what they are, your peer feedback, and then your quiz. So therefore, you won't be, so then you'll just have a chance to bring your grade up by 1 week and then do your week 5 this week appropriately, which is, trust me, it's a lot of points. And that means then that 2 and 3 would be 2 will be the one that you won't be able to go back to. 1, I really didn't hold that against you in it. So I think that's fair with helping you through, and you'll remember that from now on. Okay, let's get into the content. Talk about some of these things. So we're going to talk about the challenges in corrections, the TPC review, and then the vocabulary review. By the way, the vocabulary review is not a part of my lecture. It is a part of where I'm actually helping you. When I finish this part, I'm actually finished, and I can give you the key phrase. But the reason why I won't give and ask for the key phrase until after this is because there are some students who are guilty of, and I could tell, of not even looking at my lecture. They look at it, or they go through it till they get to the key phrase. And then when they get to the key phrase, that's what they do. And then they maybe rely on something they thought they read, something. You're doing a disservice to yourself there. The whole lecture, because you miss valuable information that you might not otherwise pick up. Okay. So now, what are the challenges? Well, we've kind of started talking about them. So it's a dangerous position. It is a position, whether it's jail or prison. And as you already know, jail are individuals who are there for a shorter period of time than those who are in prison. And that generally, the separation between the two is individuals who commit misdemeanors who go to which one, jail or prison? Hmm. And so, uh, where would you expect to find the hardcore, or the hardcore people? Probably most of the time, excuse me, not in jail. Now, you might find them in jail. Yep, prison is the ultimate place, but you might find them in jail while they're awaiting trial, because they're held and not sent to prison until they're determined to either plead guilty or found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So the ultimate separation between the two for longer periods of time and the length of time is jails and prison. And so the release process generally takes effect involving individuals who are the felonies, the individuals who commit felonies. And that there are really a lot of challenges that these individuals face. And so the role of probation parole officers is challenged because you're dealing with individuals who are, hard to understand things. Excuse me. If any of you ever have kids and may have kids, you will understand you have to tell kids sometimes things more than once. Does anybody here have kids? Anybody who have kids in this class? Okay, great. Do you have to tell your kid just one time something most of the time? That's right. And so it's the same kind of process, mindset, that I want you to understand here that you're dealing with when you're put in this position of a probation officer or parole officer, dealing with individuals. These are people who need uh, redirection and help. That's why they have parents for kids. That's why parolees have parole officers after they get out to keep them on track, and probation officers as well. And so you have a role to do a good job, because you want to protect the public. Um, and so it's your job is tougher to me than law enforcement officers. And the reason why I say that is because you already got people who already are not presumed innocent, but they already have been determined to be guilty. And so you already know where many of them are coming from. And so the key thing that we want to do is, your job is to protect the public and it says it is a win-win. Incarceration is very expensive. I've already talked about that many times during this course. And that there are recidivists, people who constantly, and that's why they talk about the revolving door aspects. And it keeps going on. It costs money and resources, and is very costly because you're starting. These people aren't going anywhere. Okay, um, and so your primary goal, as I said, is public safety. And to achieve success, hey, you know what that sounds like? Listen, I call it, when students come into my class, to take you through the steps to achieve student success. And that's what I spend my time with, the grading the assignments and in my lectures, making sure that you totally get it for your benefit so you can pay it forward someday to someone else. So there are two primary goals, as you all are aware: public safety and success. So, and actually, uh, offender client success enhances public safety because we help individuals to deal with their problems that they have by utilizing um, tools like education, drug and alcohol programs, providing opportunities for individuals to, with a vocation or a trade, and this will minimize the revolving door effect. So when individuals then find themselves also without those type of things happening to them, they will probably pick up new cases. And so that will result in them going back as well. And again, the place where you really learn to be a criminal is not on the streets, but in prison, because you have a lot of individuals there who are what we call long-term, or some now with jurisdictions such as Illinois, we don't have a death penalty, and they're there forever. And they're there as teachers to try to teach you how to be like them, you know. So you don't want to be like them if you're an individual. And your job as a parole officer, probation officer, is to um, keep them out of that mindset so that they will do well. Now, somebody once said, well, if you do a really good job of that, then the numbers are going to decrease and you might do yourself out of a job. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case at all. And if we're thinking like that, that means you're in the wrong field. You shouldn't be thinking like that. Uh, so your job is not to, I think, as a matter of fact, if it was me and I was a parole officer, and my one of my individual parolees or probationers consistently failed, that means there might be something that I'm not doing or something I need to do. Does that make sense? Yep. And that's what you want to do. So the criminal justice system is to define and use sensible revocation, such as determine whether the behavior threatens public safety and requires a return to prison. So eliminating or delaying successful reintegration, back where I started at the beginning. So that's the challenges that you have to do that. All right. Two aspects of it: public safety and offender success. Your numbers in terms of individuals that are under you, in terms of success, might dictate how good you're doing your job. I try to not look at my job as teacher that way, but I do when I see a pattern happening. I have to get back up on my soapbox and say, come on, you're smarter than that. Come on, let's go back. Stop shortcutting things. I've already talked about that. Uh, Challenges and corrections. So let's look at some of the challenges here. Righty, here they come. And we're just going to look at some of it, and you won't hear it. So we're just going to look at this a little bit, but you can look at this later and go back because it's 25 minutes. So here we go. And I want to pause it. And so it has 4 parts: administration, jail, which deals with overcrowding and the lawsuits, um, prison administration, same kind of thing, except remember it's a longer period of times. You're dealing with wardens, and the structure and the safety and security and the release of those individuals based upon the principles that we talked about a little earlier and what we'll talk about later. Release, preparing individuals for release, and providing what they need to help them. And then the challenges, we've already kind of talked about that as parole and probation officers. Um, and so the key thing with jails is to try to keep people out. Okay, you got the special populations, and we've talked about this already in previous weeks. The fact that there are genders, and then now you have the LGBT aspect kicking in. Employees being more professional, so that there are not a lot of lawsuits filed. um, Doing your job in a professional manner, um, with utilizing the extensive training that now is supplied to you and what you learned in school as preparing for your future if you decide to go into corrections. And then the types of programs that are needed there as well. And 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 then, so talking about the different levels, the wardens who are responsible for the whole facility, the chain of command. For example, you have the warden, then you have the major, then you have the lieutenant, and you have corporals. It's almost like the military. And the money, the pay, and the hours. And if you notice now, correction officers themselves, they're starting to get more and more professional. Used to be you get a high school diploma, you could be a correction officer. They still have that, but because of the litigious aspects of it and individuals not being properly prepared to deal with the psychological, sociological issues that they may face in their jobs. And then hopefully that will result in more increases in salaries. So to deal with preparing those individuals for release to get back into reintegration and going back into society. Okay, so we've already talked about the fact that there are problems that offenders face based upon their education, based upon lack of having the programs, and what led them there in the first place, what got them there, and dealing with the individuals themselves at that level. Some of the things, some of the things that to deal with these things is to deal with the relationships that they live, their families, their friends. Um, there are a lot of times individuals, as I said before, previous weeks, that I represented individuals who were what I call career criminals because that's where their family were and their friends who they hung with, and those kind of things. Lack of employment, lack of education, and substance abuse is a humongous issue that takes place. And then there are people who are really homeless. They don't have the proper paperwork and stuff like that because they haven't really had any need. They haven't had jobs. Don't keep regular jobs. They don't have birth certificates. They do have them, but they don't use them. They don't have bank accounts and things like that. And then of course transportation and hospitalization and those kinds of things. So, and so now we get to transition from prison to community. When do you start TPC? When do you start transportation from prison to community? I'm asking you. When do you start it? Nope. When? Yep. And that's closer. The answer is day one. Day one. You set the pace for preparing individuals. You presume individuals that are going to come in are going to get out. 99.999% of the individuals do come out. They come back, but if you do begin to transition those individuals from the mindset of being a prisoner to getting back in the community, then that's your role. All correctional staff are seen as the effective intervention around offender change. So that's why I said from day one, starting with the correction officers. So what works in prisons? Um, Various types of programs that help individuals, uh, understanding the reason why those individuals are there. What does not work is sanctions and punishments. We already talked about that. That's why we are more toward rehabilitation as opposed to punishment, as I teach it anyway, and that the new correction officers and individuals who work in corrections are beginning to apply a more professional approach rather than not just a babysitting thing, but a teaching opportunity for individuals who committed a violation of the law. And one of the phrases that I've heard since I've been teaching this class over and over, and I heard it from my student who is now um, she's on medical leave, is how do you deal with the inmates? Firm, fair, and then there's consistent. So that's what makes the difference. Makes you a strong person, helps you to be respected. Your ability to communicate. I mean, we've talked about that as one of our transferable skills from the very beginning. Uh, and the bottom line is to help them to change. And then, um, so as you will discover, TPC is to reach the stage where that individual will be able to move in a new direction, move from 12 o'clock on the clock to 6 o'clock. Everybody know what I'm talking about when I say that? You recall that? From 12 o'clock on the clock to 6 o'clock, that is going in a new direction. Do you remember I talked about that several times during this course, where you want to take individuals uh, out of the direction that they were going in at 12 and not take them to 3, because you could see where they need to go and where they are to 6 o'clock, where it's a totally opposite direction. You recall that? Yep, keep moving upward, but you don't want to move them past 6, because then you start to head them back in the other direction and circular. In other words, we don't want individuals to do a 360 in prison. We want them to do a 180, because 360s is what they do anyway. That's what bring them back. That's a complete circle. Okay, so now, so we talk about the looking at those individuals on a case-by-case basis, utilizing information that we learn about their backgrounds and themselves to help them. Okay, so, and we work consistently on each case. So I'm going to get out of this, and you can go through this, but you will discover that this particular section, you can hear the the lady talking. You can't hear them because I have them, the headsets on here, and it's blocking it. But you'll go through this, and it's supplemental material to help you with this. Okay. All right. So now the final part is, and I'm a little over my time, but TPC review. So now, uh, TPC review is recognizing that day one, that we're preparing those individuals to go back into the community to reduce the recidivism. Recidivism is very simply repeating, and victimization, where they begin to continue to um, hurt people. As the older I get, the more I'm in favor of rehabilitation, because those people represent a real danger to seniors, as well as young people, and to themselves. Um, and so, talk says there's one example: transition from prison to the community is designed to reduce them coming back, enhance the public safety. Remember, we talked about that, and improve the lives of the community, victims, and offenders. So, in other words, make the community better. And then you could click on each of these components of the TPC model to learn more. Assessment, all the way down to complications and barriers. Okay. And I'm just going to show you, if you click on it, it opens it up, and it leaves the RN model, and it tells you what RNR has to do with and who it's all about. So determine who your target is. All right. And then you can go all the way down. All right. Any questions about anything I've said so far? Okay. So now, remember, as you take your exam, to study this very carefully, and I'm just going to do one in the interest of time. So I'm going to let you match up, and tell me which one is chain of command. Series of organizational positions in order of authority, receiving orders from one immediately above. Okay. What about boundary violations? Let's see if you're right. Absolutely. So you need to, understand this because you're going to run across this in the quiz. And so you go through this, there's 40 of them all together, something like that. All right, so that is it. And any questions? All right, it's that time again. Let's see. I got one that I picked out already, and it's on my forehead. You see it here? No, it's not written there. What do you think? Anybody want to take a guess at it? The key phrase. No, that's close. That's very close. Any others? Yeah, that's overall course. But what do you think? What is the one of the main objectives of your job as in corrections? Yes. What's the result supposed to be? Yes. But what success? Yes. Come on, be more specific. Rehabilitation? No. How about public safety? Does that kind of capture everything that we talked about today? Mm-hmm. All right. Trinity didn't get it today. Okay. But then you're right there. You guys are all right there. You were all right there. But public safety is the phrase. Give it to me, and you get your points for this week. Now, any questions about the expectations for this course? Because this is it. I won't be. There's no lecture next week. You know what your assignments are next week. I already went over that with you. Anything else? Anything you want to bring to my attention? The corrections. What about the corrections to um, number 4? What was the question you want to ask? Nope. You read that yourself and determine that. That's a big part of it, but you read that over. It's not just plugging in citations and references at the end. It's not just that. The Here's the deal. Remember, each of these assignments that have been given to you guys have been given for you to educate someone. And so if you're going to write a paper or prepare a pamphlet or a document, you want to inform the individual with enough information, but then that information needs to be supported by credible resources that you have discovered from your reading and research. Don't just use the textbook, okay? Think of it think of it like that. Think of it like that. Then this person is they don't know anything about it. And you're presenting, and as I said before, I know I said it in another class. I think I said it in this class too. Take your papers and have somebody to read them. So, but anyway, so I'm going to start grading your week 4s tomorrow. But um, I'm not gonna completely be done with them. So yeah. So all right, guys. So get those in by Friday, and then of course feel free to reach out. Do you need to email? No, you don't email me. Tell me. Just do it. Just put it in the. Just put it in the Dropbox. Mm-mm. I'll see it. I'll see it. Please don't email me. Okay. I don't like to read. I don't like emails anyway. I like phone conversations. Uh, yeah, I know. I know. But why? Because if you redo the assignment, when I go into the section of my, I'm going to show you something without showing you uh, the grades and specifics. When I go into um, this section where it says Grade Center, there's two parts to it. Needs grading. And what needs grading consists of are assignments that I need to give grades to. And it'll show up in there every time. Full grading is when I see your grade book itself. So it will show up in needs grading. So I don't think you need to email me to tell me, because this is where I'm going to go anyway to actually see your papers to grade. Okay? Some people do that, but that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense to me. So, anything else? All right, guys. Gonna say good night to you. I do want to let each and every one of you know I do appreciate each of you who've come out um, these weeks and have been with me during these lectures. I enjoy teaching the class, and like I said again, it's funny. Corrections is what I'm doing with you guys, is corrections. Again, school is where you learn, where you make your mistakes, and that's what I try to do. I don't take pride in not seeing students do well. My goal is always, will be, and can no one change it, is student success. So, okay, guys, see you down the road. Yep, thank you. I will be teaching, as a matter of fact, starting Wednesday, Introduction to Criminal Law, Drugs and Crime, and something that I won't see any of you in, and that's business law. So anyway, so good night, guys.